What's going on, guys? It's the Bigs Podcast, episode number 92, and this is part two of week 21's breakdown. With me tonight, the commissioner, and sadly, no longer the leader in the clubhouse at this point, Ben Nisman. Benny, how are you feeling after this week, my friend?
Feeling great, Joe. Happy to be back after a week off. A lot of excitement going on. Obviously, a ton of playoff implications. So we got a lot of breakdown here because it's not just the week that was, but it's also the week that is, Joe. Everything that happened last week correlates to what's happening as we speak. So without further ado, talking about week 21, Joe Schubert, set the table, buddy.
Let's get going, boys. We are in week 21. We are this close to finding out who the lucky six are, the blessed six that get to the playoffs this year. It's going to be very, very interesting. Let's kick this thing off with my matchup against Bobby Russo. Benji, I feel like I had this thing pretty well in hand for most of the week and did exactly what I needed to get this thing done.
Yeah, well said. I mean, the team has not stopped hitting. It just seems like it just continues and continues. And, it feels like even if you're not batting, around 290 at this point, you're running into a team that's kind of cold on the offensive side. If anything, that's the case here. And, it's just another real easy win that you kind of breeze through. There wasn't really a lot of stress on your end.
No, in fact, I got to 43 and a third for the second week in a row, very early on in the matchup. I think Friday, and I shut everything down for the weekend again.
Yeah.
Um, so nothing changed on Sunday. The score was and stayed at 14-6. Close categories, I win by two doubles, I win by two triples. Bobby wins by two wins and one save, and we tied in errors. Left on my bench this week, Benjamin is an 18 for 56.
Gosh. 18, 36, 40, 285. Really don't know.
321.
Yeah, it seemed like it might have been kind of big.
Yeah, yeah. 13 runs, three doubles, seven homers, 15 RBIs, two walks, 11 strikeouts, and none of that offensive stuff
No,
plays.
no.
The only thing that does matter, I did bench two saves over the weekend that would have ended up flipping that category. I, I just wasn't going to risk anything else at that point. It was
No,
let's
no.
shut it
Why?
down and let's just
Yeah,
cruise into the playoffs now.
yeah. Why would you? I mean, there's no point in blowing up what you had. I mean, you could kind of navigate seeing that Bobby wasn't really throwing that well. But I actually did not see what his ERA was going into the weekend. So, I mean, did he kind of
Worse.
push his chips out? Okay, so he actually brought it down.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess he did what he had to. He had to win innings. He had to
Yeah,
win
he
wins.
he
He
was
had to win
texting me all week.
strikeouts.
He felt like he needed to get seven. He ended up getting six here. So I guess, mission not accomplished, but he got as close as he possibly could here. And you know what? His offense really let him down with this
Oh my
175 and
God, awful.
260. Like it's not gonna carry. For my moves this week, I didn't use all 12, Benji. I didn't use all 12.
Yeah,
First
the
time all
Messiah,
season.
Mashiach must be coming. Yeah.
I added Trevor Richards for a 2 inning relief appearance that was clean. I added Griffin Jacks for 2/3 of an inning, a strikeout, a 1350 and a 150, and dropped Richards. I dropped Danny Columby for Edwin Diaz, who I've thrown on my IL, who, by the way, is throwing bullpen sessions and might come back. It's insane. And I added Jason Dominguez, who homered in his debut, but I never got him in. He's actually in the lineup tonight as we speak. Um, I dropped Griffin Jacks for Wandy Peralta, who didn't appear, pain in the ass. Dropped DJ LeMahieu for Jose Soriano, who was benched for his appearance, which was horrible. Dropped Wandy Peralta for Fernando Cruz, who caught COVID. I dropped Cruz and Ian Hamilton, who hit the IL for Giovanni Gallegos. Dropped Soriano for Ron Marinaccio, then dropped Ron Marinaccio for Phil Maton. It was 10 ads, a hitter, and nine relievers. My MVP this week is Mookie Betts. 346 with a 452 on base, 7 runs, 3 bombs, 6 RBIs, 5 walks, and 6 strikeouts. With a big shout out to William Contreras, who filled up the stat line very nicely as well.
Oh yeah.
The least valuable hitter, I have Altuve question mark with a 238 and a 238 and 6 strikeouts, but he did give me a triple. Everybody seemed to have done something productive once again, and this is the result. The Cy Young is Chris Bassett, 8 innings, a win, a walk, 3 strikeouts, nothing earned in an 050. With a shout out to Freddie Peralta with his 10 strikeouts and a no decision. The Cy Young, Griffin Jacks, it's the only guy who gave up, multiple runs. Strider wasn't wonderful, but he had 9 strikeouts. So plenty of great things there. As for Bobby on his bench, man, he went 3 for 20.
Wow. That's really good.
Very, very good.
Um, well, 2 for 20 is 100. Uh, what is it, like 111?
150 with 3 runs, 2 doubles. If he gets them both in, they tie the category. An RBI, 2 steals, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. I don't think it's too insane to say, you know what, he got the most that he could out of this thing, because if his bench hit 150 and his lineup hit 172, it just wasn't a good week to be Bobby. His moves this week, he used 11. He dropped Marinaccio for Patrick Bailey over 3 with a walk and 2 strikeouts, and Jace Peterson over 2. He dropped Bailey over for Pedro Avila, 3 innings, a loss, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, a 3, and a 267 whip against San Francisco. He dropped Bailey, Avila, Massey, Rooker, and Jace Peterson on Thursday. For Cole Irvin, 5 2/3, a loss, 2 homers, a walk, 4 strikeouts, a 635, and a 159 in Arizona. Tristan Beck, 2 2/3, a loss, 2 homers, a 20-25, and a 338 at San Diego. And Chris Taylor, 0 for 3 with a walk and 2 strikeouts. So nothing in the lineup's working. Nothing that he's picking up is working either. He
No.
drops Beck and Irvin for Tanner Houck, 5 innings, a win, a walk, 5 strikeouts, a 720, and a 160 at Kansas City. And
Okay.
Zach Littell, 4 2/3, a homer, a strikeout, a 771, and a 193 in Cleveland. Drops Houck, Littell, and Brock Stewart for Kyle Muller. 4 innings, a homer, a walk, 3 strikeouts, a 675, and a 150 at home against the Angels.
Jeez.
And Chase Anderson, 4 innings, 2 homers, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 450 and a 150 at home against Toronto. And added Colin Holderman, who didn't show up. 11 adds, 3 hitters, 7 starters, and a reliever. His key players this week, and this is hard because, again, his team hit 172 with a 262 on base.
Yeah.
Did get a good grip of homers and I guess a decent amount of walks, but not a whole lot else. So the most valuable hitter I have here is Adley Rutschman, 294 with a 368, 4 runs, a homer, 3 RBIs, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter is Jose Ramirez, a 143 and a 217, 2 runs, a double, a steal, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, and an error.
Mm-hmm.
The Cy
Yeah, I mean,
Young.
by
Oh,
the
go
way,
ahead,
before
man.
you get into that, I was
Yeah.
going to say that Candelario is a guy that he's relied on a lot lately. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's really gotten him to this point where he's this close to the promised land. But I don't know if he played him all 6 or 7 days, rather whether the Cubs played all 7 days this week. I just don't know the answer to that. But I mean, this guy really failed him with a 59 average, a 158 on base, the one dinger, sure, but 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. I mean, really, really bad week out of him.
Yeah, it looks like all of these offers were probably in the lineup along with this 1 for 5 with the bomb. Just or maybe this 1 for 4 with the bomb rather. I mean, either way, horrible week from this guy at the worst possible time. You know. His Cy Young this week, welcome back, Max Fried, 7 innings, a win, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, nothing earned in an 071. Good time to be getting that guy back, huh?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. He'll be a perfect fit for him in his rotation if he can get to week 23.
The Cy Yuck, I've got Tristan Beck, but it could be Kyle Gibson or Emilio Pagan or Brooks Raley or Aaron Nola. There's just a grip of dudes who weren't good this week for him, and that's what happens when you throw to an ERA of almost 6. Benji, the promised land is here for one of us. I kind of stamped my ticket here with this 9th win in a row.
Mhm,
And Bobby now suddenly sits on the outside looking in ironically, the Bob spot.
mhm.
Can Bobby turn this thing around in the final week and get himself in? And is he going to do that?
I don't know the answer to that, but it is set up for him to do so. I mean, all he has to do is have a better week than than Henry, or maybe even if a Frank could really have a terrible week. That's another guy that he could jump as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Josh is probably safe as well, but um that could happen. Maybe Josh loses badly to Ari, but I think it's really down to Henry, Frank, and Bobby for this final spot. But it's set up for him. I mean, he has Adam in the final week. Adam's been tough. Like, he's been a very tough manager for a lot of teams this year, like a lot of them. And it's not the most ideal final week for Bobby, but it is a rookie. It is a guy that he should know how to outplay and know what he has to do on the last 2 or 3 days of this week to know, okay, what can I win? What can I win? How many stats do I need to accumulate to make me feel comfortable going into Sunday? So it's going to be very exciting for these couple of managers. Stressful, absolutely, but exciting as well. So I wish him good luck. He's worked his ass off. I think this is arguably the hardest that he's ever worked in any year in the 6 years
Mm-hmm.
that he's been with us. He's a young manager, in my opinion. 2018 to me is still like you learn more every single season. I mean, Joe, I feel like even you could say that about this season, that there was something that you learned in fantasy baseball this year. But for him, like, there's still some growing time for Bobby, a ton of it. So this is exactly like I would have signed up for this. Like, I would have been down. You say like, oh my God, I'm one out basically with 1 week to go. Like, yeah, like I would like that spot.
And I get to
Obviously, I
face a
feel
rookie in the final week. Yeah, that's what
right,
I'm signing up.
right. Yeah. So it's set up for him, but it's certainly not going to be easy at all. And he's really going to have to do what he's been doing these first 21 weeks, and that's grinding it out every single day. And now it's just win the day. If you don't win
Yep.
Tuesday, try to win Wednesday and just go from there. And as for you, Joe, it's looking like it's not definite, but it's looking like a seventh straight trip to the Final Four, which is incredible when you think about it. To go to the Final Four every year since 2017. And based on where you were 9 weeks ago, it's really been an incredible climb. And I feel like if you're able to finish this thing off and win out and win 12 weeks in a row, it's going to be something that we talk about forever for this fifth championship. That'll be so awesome if you can pull it off.
Yeah. Or the other side of that coin is whoever beats me and ends this run now, potentially. I mean, it could be Christian this week, but
Maybe,
if I
maybe.
head into the playoffs having won 10 in a row and somebody beats me either in the 11th or 12th round in order to not have me win a fifth championship, we'll be talking about that guy forever, too.
Sure, absolutely. It's no matter what, we'll have a ton of stories to tell about this season.
This has been a wild season. I do want to hit on what Bobby did text me about each and every day. First of all, Jose Altuve hit for the cycle on Monday against him, so there you go. Third week in a row. This is Bobby texting me. Third week in a row, I had a Monday triple against me in the second cycle this year. Um, and he just needs to survive. My offense is getting smoked. Need to get out of this with 7. He says it on Tuesday that he's like, I just need to survive and get out of it with 7. He ends up with 6, and he's a game out. So it is interesting that like he
He
knew
called
the
it.
math. He
Yeah,
knew what it would take to be sitting in after
yeah,
this week, and
yeah.
he's missing it
Mhm.
by 1.
Yeah, that's about right. And maybe he assumed like even if I get seven, the worst I'll be is something like two or three out. Like even if
Mhm.
Henry has a decent week.
Mhm. Just going to have to throw a bunch of innings, which is what he had to do. Um, and then he was just sort of curious on how I was going to play the rest of the week. Are you
Mhm.
going to go inning for inning with me, or are we going to are we going to see me just shut it all down, which is what I ended up doing.
Yeah, yeah, it's the most logical play for you. You have nothing to gain by just continuing, you know.
No,
That
I
that's
mean I
a
could
that's a
fight for a
rookie
win. I
mistake.
could yeah, I could
Yeah.
fight for a win. I could try to fight relief appearances, and you know what? If these guys all blow up, all of a sudden ERA and Whipper in play. No way,
Right,
no way. Not
right.
taking
No,
it.
it's not worth it.
Not taking it.
No.
Bobby had two of the Reds guys in the doubleheader on Friday, and when lineups came out, neither one of them was in the first game.
Oh my God.
It was so annoying. He texted me. He's like, "You've got to be kidding me."
You think maybe he added them thinking like someone else is gonna grab these guys if I don't, so I
Well,
better
one's
just
TJ
jump on them.
Friedel, who's been on his team all year,
Okay,
and Harrison Bader was starting over him. And then the
okay.
other one was somebody else. Hang on.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't see who the other person was, but in that
Okay.
in any event, um,
There were guys that were he had rostered already.
right, he was ready to, roll with them, and no game. No game.
Yeah,
It might have been Candelario because they were playing the
yeah.
Cubs.
I mean, you wonder like how much would it have really mattered, right? Like you beat him by over 100 points in batting average. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, you did have a significant more amount of at bats. It seems like you had 81 more at bats than him. Um, oh, rather 60. Sorry, but anyway, 40 run, sorry, 39, fine, 39 runs and 39 RBIs from you. Like he would have had to do a lot more to get even close to that.
Right.
I mean, a lot of us would have. Like, yeah, you batted 277. You weren't batting near 300 this time. But that's pretty damn freaking good. With 13 bombs, 39 ribbies, 39 runs, like you're not really competing with these kinds of stats anyway. Like no one is. Like a 228 ERA over 43 and a third. Perfect. Like under one whip. Like you would have beaten all of us with these numbers, man. Like it just seems like he just walked into the hottest team, one of the hottest teams I've ever seen in the bigs, like through the time that we've been doing this, the role that you're on. So we kind of felt like between the Sherman and then Jason and then Bobby, the second time that you go through it, it was going to be it was going to be tough. They might end your season. There was a discussion of it, but like, no, you just ran through all of them, man. Like it was poetry in motion. It was tough to watch, vicariously for these other managers. Besides Mike, this has been you dump truck the other two. Jason got whooped
Yeah.
last week, and then
Yep.
this it's been
Yeah.
too much, man. It's just too much for anybody. And if this is the team, like as hot as they are, no one can stop this team. It's the most balanced and complete and close to like your 2018 team
Mm.
as I've seen. It just seems like there's a star or a superstar in every single spot, not just in the lineup, in the staff as well. You're 6 to 7 deep in the rotation that you can get the saves. Like there's really not a hole, and it's just it seems like for Bobby, it was survival mode, like you said. Just get the wins, get the
Mm-hmm.
innings, get the strikeouts, like get what you can, and just say forget about this. Let me just work on week 22 because that's my best chance to get into this thing.
Bobby is one game out with 1 week to play behind Henry. He has got the unenviable task of taking on the difficult rookie in Adam Lowenstein, whereas Henry, he's facing off with Kostas. We're going to talk about Kostas here in a moment, but this is going to be one of those pairings of matchups that we will talk about for years to come because one of these guys' hearts may be broken. It might be Josh Haber. It might be Frank Bucco. It could even mathematically be you, Benji. Yeah. Anything is realistic and anything is possible. That's what I learned this season because before my 9 game winning streak, I had counted myself completely dead in the water. You were talking about the dump truckings I put on people. Yes, I dump trucked Jason. I dump trucked Matt Losi. I dump trucked Ari, all of which were at least double ups, most of them quadruple ups. The rest, not terrible. 11-7 over you, a 12-7 over McCloskey, 12-8 over Mike Haber just recently. I'm hoping for the bye, but you know what? I'll take whatever I can get to get into the playoffs. And it looks like a foregone conclusion that Mike Haber and I will be taking the bye. It's just question what order. Um, but we'll see. And I look forward to it. Speaking of Mike Haber, that's going to be a nice segue here, Benjamin. We're going to take a look at your matchup against Mike Haber this past week. Not the outcome you wanted, I'm sure. Go ahead and tell us about
Yeah, it was one of those weeks I was kind of preparing to get whooped. It's like when you look through your schedule and you're like, I need to win here and I need to win here because there's a chance that on this week is the week that I'm going to get crushed. So no surprises, no like shockers, like, oh my God, like I had high expectations. I'm happy for Mike and he needed a win here just to, kind of get him off the schneid a little bit. But at this point, yeah, this is a dangerous team also, Joe. If it's not you holding the trophy at the end, it could be this guy because he's been so consistent ever since like that first week. It's just like, uh-oh, he thought it was 2017 again, and then he just righted the ship. Bryce Harper came back way earlier than we all expected. And Mike has really never looked back since that week 5, week 6 when Harper was back. And yeah, I didn't really manage my ass off this week because at this point I kind of feel like I don't need to break down the team. I'm comfortable with it. I know what I'm going to war with in week 23. And if I need to start shaving guys off in the last couple days because things are getting dicey against Jason, that's when I'll do it. But this week wasn't the one to do it.
it. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Let's talk about Sunday. Losses. Mike had a 1 loss lead and did end up taking a loss to tie that category. Saves were tied, and Mike not only took one, but he took two. Mike had a 2 home run advantage. Looks like he held on to that. And relief appearances were tied, and Benji, you were able to get that one. Close categories, Benji, you win by the stolen base, 4 walks by a pitcher, and 3 relief appearances. Mike wins by 2 errors, 2 saves, and 3 home runs given up by a pitcher. You guys tied in triples and losses.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's just like one of those funny things of being. I hate to use the word apathetic, but I think you know what I mean when I was talking about the focus and how hard I was going to work. McNeil is not a guy that I've been using too often
Mhm.
this season. Like he's basically been riding the bench. But if there was going to be a week to play him, this was it.
I think something happened with Benji's audio here. Hang on. Hang on. I think your audio went out, man. Okay, we're back. Technical difficulties were taken care of. Benji, you were talking about how Jeff McNeil was the guy that you were going to have in the lineup this week. Go ahead and talk to that.
Yeah, I don't look. I don't want to say apathy. I don't want to say lackadaisical, but there just wasn't that grind every day, need to win every day and fight for it. So that's why McNeil played, and alas, he gets the triple that I need. I avoid losing that stat as a result because of this kind of play. So it's funny how things work out. Where I've talked about week after week on how this was left on the bench. This would have been another stat here. Here I obtain I avoid losing a stat basically because of this kind of empathy, if you will. I don't like to use that word or lackadaisical, but it was less of an aggressive approach, knowing that this is the group that I'm going to be going with. So it's
Mhm.
funny how that worked out that way, but again, it certainly wasn't something that I was expecting to happen, and it just that's one of those little things that kind of fell into my favor. But how about the fact that like two saves, like my team, every single week, Joe, it just feels like can't really get saves. Like the last time I think I had more than four saves was against Adam. I won 5-4. It was just one of those things where like he had two closers, I had two closers. He had Iglesias and Kimbrel. I have Doval and Hader, and that was enough to just grab one more than him. But in general, man, it just hasn't been good. Like
Yeah.
against Ari, we neither one of us had a save, and I ended up tying that category. It's been very frustrating. Not the type of team that you see from me year after year. It's usually filled with the pen, and it's usually like a shoo-in to win that category. It's really not this year. And like, especially in the playoffs against most of you guys, I'm gonna lose that category. And it's just like I'm kind of accepted it. Obviously, I can't drop those guys on the chance that a team like the Padres win a few in a row and they're all close games, and Hader does actually bring out the guns and pulls it off for me. But in general, very, very disappointing with what's going on the bullpen side. And in the rotation, it hasn't been much better, Joe. This is not a good rotation at all.
Your rotation of Merrill Kelly and Ranger Suarez and Michael Waka, Lance Lynn, and Miles Michaelis. Oh, and Kenta
And to
Maeda.
Maeda.
Yep. Not listen, this sounds much like the same kinds of staffs that we've seen from you in years past, however. One guy that sort of anchors it that is not as good as any ace on any other team. In fact, there are probably teams with two guys better than this guy. This year, it just happens to be Merrill Kelly.
Yeah. And he hasn't even pitched for me all year. Like he had a good amount of time on the injured list. So did Waka. So did Ranger Suarez. Kenta Maeda I picked up while he was on the injured list.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Mikolas is the
Patchworking.
guy. Mikolas is the guy that's actually been there each week, but he's just been like horrific, like unexpectedly horrific this year. Like that guy is really taking a step down.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. All right, for Mike Haber on his bench this week, Benjamin, he goes 16 for 73.
Okay. Um, okay. Wow. Is it like 212?
It's 219.
Oh, that's pretty close. All
Yeah.
right, this one's for Henry.
All right.
Yeah. That was my Chris Farley.
Well done.
We had been doing that bit like all week. Like actually this past weekend only, but he just sent me like a couple of clips, like what do they call those GIFs?
Oh, yeah, where Chris Farley's just beating himself up. Yeah,
Yeah, on the Chris Farley show.
nice. It was 8 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 7 RBIs, 2 walks, and 17 strikeouts. None of it plays. And for his moves this week, Zach Littell for Isaiah Campbell, an inning, a walk, a strikeout, and a 1 whip in his relief appearance. Dropped Tyler Rogers for Davis Schneider. 2 for 5 with a run, a double, a homer, 2 RBIs, and a strikeout. This is the guy who looks like Dan the Dad, the backyard wrestler.
Is that a backyard wrestler?
Okay, so he's an independent wrestler.
Yeah, he was on TV. Well, he was on the internet.
He was
Sort of
on
on
the internet.
TV.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He dropped Isaiah Campbell for Patrick Sandoval, 3 2/3, a loss, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 12-27 and a 218. That was terrible. He dropped Giovanni Gallegos for Kyle Hendricks, 6 innings, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, and a 1 whip. Added Michael Brantley, who was 0 for 1, dropped Kyle Hendricks and Pat Sandoval for Mike Moustakas. Oh, wait, and Mike Moustakas. And added Robert Stevenson for a clean inning. And then added Kyle Hendricks back. It was like 8 ads. His MVP this week is Marcell Ozuna, 385 with a 467, 6 runs, 3 doubles, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. That guy, JP Crawford, uh, Even Jorge Polanco had a really nice week as well. Bryce Harper had 3 homers, but hit 174. The guy who didn't do much, Marcus Semien, 160 with a 250, 4 runs, 2 doubles, 2 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. The Cy Young, Kyle Hendricks, on and off the team, 6 innings, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, nothing earned, and a 1 whip. The Cy Yuck, Pat Sandoval, we talked about him, 3 2/3, a 12.27 and a 2.18. Benji, for you on your bench this week, it is a 13 for 54.
It's not my worst work. 13 for, what did you say, 54?
Yes.
26, 26, 52. Oh, wow. 243.
241. You almost nailed it.
Oh, my God.
10 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 2 RBIs, 9 walks, 12 strikeouts, and an error. And guess what? None of it plays. Even the 9 walks doesn't matter because you still would have lost that by 4. The 10 runs doesn't matter. You would have lost that by almost by 8 more. The homers, the RBIs, like he really came to get the counting stats this
Yeah.
week. You
Yeah.
were just able to walk away with batting average.
Yeah. Yeah. And that triple to tie that category at
Yeah.
least. It's
Yeah.
funny how like when I take it like day by day as serious as I could and think about it so much, you see all these stats left on the bench that end up playing. But the one time that I'm really not doing it day to day, then none of the stats actually play. That's very strange.
Very bizarre. Very bizarre. For your moves this week, you dropped Paul Blackburn for Robert Suarez, who gave up 1 earned run in his relief appearance of an inning. Dropped Steven Wilson for Alex Vesia, clean relief appearance. Dropped Alex Vesia for Tommy Canley, clean relief appearance. Dropped Robert Suarez for Miguel Castro, clean relief appearance. Dropped Luis Garcia for Colin McHugh, clean relief appearance. Dropped Julian Merriweather for Robert Suarez, who was suspended for sticky stuff. So you dropped him and added Scott Magoo, a 2 inning relief appearance with a 450 and a 150. He did give up a bomb. Dropped Scott Magoo for Kendall Graveman, an inning, a walk, 2 strikeouts in his relief appearance. And finally finished it off with Miguel Castro for Kyle Nelson, who was not good. He did not record an out, has an infinite ERA and whip, and a relief appearance. The MVP this week, we're looking at Luis Ariz yet again, 462 with a 500, 7 runs, a double, a homer, 3 RBIs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. The least valuable hitter, CJ Abrams, though he did have 4 steals. I think Nolan Arenado more fits this. 100 with a 100, 2 runs, and only 3 strikeouts. The Cy Young is going to be Michael Wacha, 6 innings, a win, a homer, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, a 3, and a 133. The Cy Yuck is Lance Lynn. 4 1/3, a loss, 3 bombs, 2 walks, a strikeout, a 14.54, and a 2.08. Benji, the pitching did kind of let you down this week. This is something that, are you concerned about this going into the playoffs?
Yeah, look, obviously, I'm looking at this team and I'm saying that on the pitching side, from starting to bullpen, the entire staff is all a bunch of question marks on each start. There's no ace holding it down. There's not a deep pen here that can compete with most of the teams that are going to be in the dance this year. So, yeah, this is a major concern, and it's going to come down to me actually managing through free agency. Like that's really what it's going to come down to. Do I start Waka on against a tough opponent? I haven't totally looked at all the schedules, but there's going to be some decisions made as far as like, should this guy really start? I mean, Mikolas has been so bad. Is it worth it to start him against a decent team, on a Tuesday or a Wednesday? Like maybe not, we'll have to see now, but first things first, get through week 22, find myself in the playoff. Like we said, not mathematically in, like I still have to take care of business. I still need some help from other managers as well. If a Mike Sherman and a Kostas and an Adam all are terrible and Jason's good, that might see me on the outside looking in. You know,
Hmm.
if
Even
Ari's
playing
horrendous, yeah.
to the middle,
Hmm.
and those
Yeah,
guys being bad, could
absolutely.
see you.
Yeah,
Like
for sure, for sure.
if it finishes like a 9-9 tie, and these guys are winning like 15-6, they're
Yeah.
gonna pass you by.
That could do it. Like I said, I feel confident because it required four teams to jump me in 1 week. The chances of that are very, very low, but yes, of course it can happen. And yes, it is the bigs. So can't take anything for granted, can't expect anything really. You just kind of have to now play it day by day, focus on winning the day. And at this point, I don't know whether I want the three, the four, the five, or the six seed. Obviously, two would be amazing, but at this point, not expecting that. Just got to find my way in somehow. And whoever I end up playing, it'll be an amazing matchup, and I'll be grateful to be there because this has been a really, really awesome group of managers this year, and it'll be great to compete with all of them. And as far as Mike goes, it's just another season of him in the final four. Yeah, he missed it last year. I was able to knock him out in that first round, but he's back with a vengeance, and maybe this is the year of Mike Haber. We've been waiting for it. 2012, our tiebreaker, that's his one championship on the trophy. He needs to cement that second championship. It's been a long time coming for him, and he's one of the best, if not the best day-to-day manager we got. That's why I was kind of figuring this was a loss this week. But good for him. I hope he's proud of himself and he's happy that he's more than likely going to another Final Four. Amazing, amazing season.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. You picked out a great team in the draft and have rode it all season long. We talked for a long time about how we were half expecting a Haber brother in the finals because of how well both of them were doing. Now we're standing here going, okay, so it does look like Mike's going to end up being in the final four, and we'll see where Josh ends up along the way. But man, it's another great season of Mike Haber. We just want to see you finish it one time. It's great to always be a bridesmaid, but at some point you want to be the bride who's raising the trophy for herself. Mike, I'm rooting for you, buddy. One more week to go until we're in the playoffs. Let's move on to the next matchup here, Benji. And this one, I think we're going to run through fairly quickly. It's going to be Ari Nisman taking on Mike Sherman, the two pillars of the league. I saved this one for you specifically because I know how much this particular matchup does mean to you for the history of the league. Mike Sherman getting the 11-9 win this week. As for Sunday, nothing. The only thing that changed, Mike had a 3-run advantage, and Ari made that stick on his side by one. So close categories, Ari wins by that run, 2 walks, a save, and a strikeout by a pitcher. Mike wins by 1 home run, a loss, and 1 tick on the whip. They tied in triples. For Mike on his bench this week, Benjamin, it's a 10 for 33.
Um, 328.
303.
Oh, it goes down that far. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. 7 runs, 5 doubles, a triple, 6 RBIs, 2 steals, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, and an error. The 7 runs obviously play, as does the triple. The triple comes on Wednesday, and it's Jeremy Pena. And I'll show it to you here. It's pretty interesting. See, here's Jeremy Pena with the triple. Tyler O'Neill does not play in the utility spot. It's the only guy he could have benched.
Mm-hmm.
So rough one there. His moves this week, he actually put together quite a few of them. Looks like 5. He dropped Nolan Shanuel for Will Vest, clean relief appearance. Added Tuki Toussaint for 5 1/3, a loss, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, a 506 and a 131. Dropped Toussaint for Paul Blackburn. 5 innings, a win, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 180 and a 140. Dropped Blackburn for Brennan Bernardino, an inning, it was a clean relief appearance. And dropped Mike Bauman. The MVP this week for him, who else would it be but Ronald Acuna, a 406 with a 457. 8 runs, 2 doubles, 4 homers, 11 RBIs, 4 steals, 3 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. The guy is just superhuman this year. The least valuable hitter I'm giving to Cal Raleigh, 188 with a 350, a run, a double, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts, and an error. The Cy Young is Kodai Senga, 7 innings, a bomb, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts, a 1.29 and a 1. And the Cy Young is Dallas Keuchel, 3 1/3, 2 homers, a walk, 2 strikeouts, a 1350, and a 180. As for Ari this week, Benjamin, he goes 9 for 29.
Um, 312.
310. Yep. A run, 5 doubles, a homer, 3 RBIs, and 5 strikeouts. The homer certainly plays, and it was by Seth Brown on Tuesday. Eugenio Suarez 0 for 5 here with 2 strikeouts in the utility spot. And there's Seth Brown. For his moves this week, all 3 of them. He dropped James McCann for Ezekiel Tovar, 1 for 4 with an RBI and a strikeout. He dropped Jesse Schultens for Bobby Miller, 7 innings, a win, a bomb, a walk, 5 strikeouts, a 1.29 and an 0.57. He dropped Brandon Pfaadt for Jamison Taillon, 5 2/3, 3 bombs, 7 strikeouts, a 7.94 and a 1.24. His MVP this week, Teoscar Hernandez, 348 with a 360, 3 runs, a double, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, and 6 strikeouts. With a shout out to Aaron Judge, who did well, but 11 strikeouts and a 208 just doesn't get to carry it the whole way there. The least valuable hitter is Christopher Morel, 143 with a 250, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. Did not show up with the bat this week. The Cy Young, Blake Snell, 13 innings, 2 wins, 9 walks, 17 strikeouts, nothing earned, and a 108 whip. The 9 walks is pretty ugly over 13 innings, but otherwise he really limited the damage. The Cy Young rolled his Chapman 16.20 ERA, 2 losses, a bomb, 3 walks. He's not been good since he got to Texas.
Yeah. Do you think he'll lose that job? Like if they make the playoffs, like can you really with the with what we know about Aroldis Chapman in the playoffs? You know, we've seen him in the World Series, we've seen him in the ALCS, like we've seen him a lot give up big, loud home runs. I mean, that's got to be something Bruce Bochy's thinking about.
He has to be thinking about it because you can name every single one of the postseason home runs he's given up.
Mm-hmm.
Rajai Davis, Mike Brasso, Jose
Mm-hmm.
Altuve.
Oh, I think there are more than that.
Actually, if there is, I'm
Oh
missing
yeah,
something, but those are the
oh
3
yeah,
that come to mind
yeah,
immediately.
yeah. Those are loud ones for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And
How are the
honestly, Rajai Davis and Mike Brasso are not really like world beaters, you know,
oh
not home run hitters even.
not even no one's a speedster and one's a specialist.
Yeah,
Like Brasso's a free agent now. He's not, I
right.
don't even think he's rostered. In any event, Ari and Mike, they put together quite a nice little matchup here. And for Mike, he's almost to 500 here, Benji.
Mhm.
How's he feeling
Yeah,
about this thing this year?
you know, I obviously I've talked in lengths about Mike about what he needs to do differently in order for him to compete. But what I'm grateful for is that these guys make the minimum each week. Um, Ari, as you know, he's an every other year kind of manager, so this was to be expected. Yeah, it just was a down year for both of them, and it's unfortunate. I obviously like seeing them at the top of the standings, but the league is very, very different, and they've grown around these 2 guys. You know, they've kind of stuck in the same type of strategy for a while, and for the most part, Ari's has really worked against them. And as far as Mike has typically drafted a nice team this year, notwithstanding. Like, I feel like he's drafted a team that can kick the crap out of everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but it's how you manage it and it's the timing of when they're high. You know, like if he's awesome, but then he's running into a team that's doing what you're doing, for example, week to week, it's not really going to matter. So it's the timing of when you have the hot week, obviously, and being consistent, not only with managing your team, but also getting the best out of what you have. So yeah, it's been a tough year for him, but with a win over Frank, funny enough, he could get to 500. And yeah, for Ari, it's just another every other year kind of year.
Yeah, we're going to be looking to next season for Ari to be competitive again, and it's going to be awesome because every other year he's making the playoffs. So 2024, we're watching for him. As for Sherman, yeah, it's great that he can get over 500 and become that 12th team over 500 before the end of the season. That would be incredible.
Mhm.
Absolutely incredible. All right. Hi, Frank. Thanks for tuning in now. It's your turn to listen to the podcast, and this is the only part he will. So we're going to talk about his matchup with Kostas Paragios this week, Benji. How'd you see this one?
Well, first of all, I think it was really strategic of you to make it the fourth matchup that we discussed, just in case he's listening to the whole show and then just goes through it, and then it's like, as opposed to skipping through it, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
that was smart, as opposed to you putting it as the first one. He listens to it and then he turns the whole thing off. So
Always thinking.
yeah. So unfortunate here for Costas, first of all, because I know this was an important matchup for him because this was still an opportunity for him. He gets a good win over Frank. Week 22 is very meaningful. At this point now, it's just looking like, he's going to play spoiler. He's going to be fighting against Henry, saying, like, hey, I didn't make it in my 2020 season. That was my first year. I'm not going to let this guy make it in his first year. So he has something to
Mm-hmm.
play for here. And for Frank, good for him, man. Like, he had taken a rough loss from Costas. This is a fun little rivalry we've now seen, especially since 2021, and it's going to be really really fun for years to come. And this one, it goes into Frank's favor at the most critical time he needed this win. So I'm proud of him. He got a big win here.
Yeah, no doubt. This was a very tight matchup all week. 10-10 for 2 days going into Sunday. And on Sunday, Frank finally gets the knockout blow. Costas had an error lead and he took one in order to tie it. The wins were tied and Costas took those. And Costas had a 21 tick ERA advantage. But because he was pitching so many innings, ended up losing that to Frank. So close categories this week. Frank wins by two doubles. He wins by 1 inning. He wins by 3 homers and 2 strikeouts. Costas wins by the triple, 2 wins, 2 saves, and 3 ticks on the whip. For Frank on his bench this week, Benji, it is 0 for 8
Okay.
with a run, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. None of it matters. All 12 of his moves this week, he dropped Jonah Heim and John Schreiber for Johnny Brito. 3 1/3, a win, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 120, and a relief appearance. I thought this was I thought this move alone showed me maturity and showed me growth as a manager from Frank because he saw Michael King as the opener on Costas's team and said, who's going to be the next guy? I have to pick up a guy
Open.
that I think is going to come behind him.
Mhm.
And here comes Johnny Brito coming behind Michael King with the win. He dropped Johnny Brito and Michael Brantley for Andre Jackson, 5 2/3, a win, a bomb, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, a 159 and an 071. Another great chess move early on in the week to establish, okay, I'm going to go after innings, but I'm going to do this diplomatically and I'm going to find as many good pitchers as I can because this, followed by Matt Manning on the 31st, 6 innings, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, nothing earned in an 067. That really sets the tone. He dropped Andre Jackson. He added a JD Davis who went 0 for 4 with a run scored. Dropped Ryan Barucki for Mike Yastrzemski, 2 for 3 with 2 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs, and a walk. Added Tristan McKenzie to the IL, and then dropped Yastrzemski, Davis, and Manning. Added Tyler Rogers, who did not appear. Added Luke Jackson, which was a waste because he dropped that guy for Dylan Lee, who gave him a clean relief appearance. Dropped Graham Ashcraft, who was on the IL. Added Xavier Curry, 5 1/3, a bomb, a walk, 6 strikeouts, a 169 and a 131. Added Tyler Anderson, 5 1/3, a bomb, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, a 506 and a 113. And neither one of them could get the win that he was looking for. And he finally dropped Yimi Garcia for Jordan Wicks, which is next week. His MVP this week, however, Whit Merrifield, 346 with a 370, 3 runs, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs, 2 steals, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter is Geraldo Perdomo, 222 with a 222, a run, and 3 strikeouts. Cy Young goes to Chris Sale, 9 2/3, a win, a homer, 4 walks, 11 strikeouts, a 2.79 and a 1.34. The Cy Yuck to Jordan Montgomery, 3 2/3, a bomb, 2 walks, no strikeouts, a 14.73 and a 2.45. For Kostas on his bench this week, Benji, it is a 4, 5, 6, 7 for 21.
7 for 21?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Can you imagine? All right. 333.
Yes, sir. Looks like 4 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 3 RBIs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. For his moves this week, I think he
How
used
many
all.
of it played, Joe?
Let's see. The runs. He would have to be perfect with the runs. Only he would have to get 2 of the 3 doubles in. Homers doesn't matter. RBIs doesn't matter. Walks don't matter. Strikeouts don't matter.
Hmm.
That's it. He'd have to be perfect with the runs and the doubles. Because even just getting Giancarlo Stanton's home run on Friday in doesn't do it.
No. Or Casey Schmidt, which was a big day. I'll bring up Tuesday in a little bit because that was a glaring thing that I saw in this matchup.
Yep. All right. His moves this week, he drops Connor Joe for Mark Canha, 1 for 4 with a 2-run bomb. Dropped Trevor Story for John Birdie, which was a waste because he dropped John Birdie for Casey Schmidt. 2 for 3 with a run, 2 doubles, and a strikeout on the bench, like you mentioned.
Dinger.
He dropped Colin Holderman for Parker Meadows, 1 for 4 with a double, a steal, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. Dropped Alek Manoah for Carter Kieboom, 1 for 4. Dropped Mark Canha for Garrett Hampson, 2 for 3 with a walk and a strikeout. And dropped Lucas Sims for Lamont Wade, 0 for 5 with a run scored. On the first, he dropped Carter Kieboom for Josh Seabor's an inning, a 2-run bomb, and a strikeout in that relief appearance. He dropped Lamont Wade for David Peterson, 4 innings, a bomb, 4 strikeouts, a 9 and a 1.75. He dropped Parker Meadows for Luis Severino, 4 innings, 2 bombs, a walk, 3 strikeouts, a 9 and a 1.75. He dropped Garrett Hampson for Tyler McGill, 5 1/3, a win, 2 bombs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, a 5.06 and a 1.31. And finished off the week dropping David Peterson for Austin Cox, an inning and 2/3, a bomb, 2 strikeouts, a 10.30 and a 1.80. His MVP this week is JT Realmuto, 375 with a 4.74, 6 runs, a double, 2 bombs, 3 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter doesn't appear to be on the team anymore. It's Trevor Story, who hit 111 with a 111 and 3 strikeouts. The Cy Young we're going to give to Will Smith. 4 innings, a walk, 4 strikeouts, nothing earned, an 0.50, and a 3 relief appearances. Or you could give it to Jordan Weems, who also had 3 clean relief appearances. They're pretty much the only guys who were clean. Michael King had 9 innings and 9 strikeouts with a win. So that's pretty good performance. The Cy Yuck, Zach Gallen, unfortunately. 10 2/3, 2 losses, 4 bombs, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts, a 9.28 and a 1.97. All right, Benji. What did you see this week? That Casey Schmidt one appears to be quite glaring.
Yeah, the 2 doubles and a 2 for 3, sure, that sticks out. But like we said, he still needed a lot more to make it happen. It's really what happens on the pitching side that day. He doesn't get Hunter Green in as well. Like he obviously like picked up Schmidt and didn't get him in the lineup, and he just didn't look at the whole team before that game started. It was an afternoon game on Tuesday. And this 5 1/3 with the win, a no ERA, 0.75 whip from Hunter Green. He gets that win, a walk, 6 strikeouts. Now, obviously, everything changes going into the weekend if that's there, right? And Frank probably still goes for the innings, he still goes for the strikeouts, but everything else is a little bit different if he gets that in. And it makes the weekend a completely different outlook. And in that regard, maybe Kostas picks up a pitcher that does great. Maybe he picks up a pitcher that does horrendously, but he gives himself certainly a better chance. And not only that, like it makes Frank make a decision and
Mhm.
force the issue, and maybe Frank makes a mistake. So Tuesday is a it's a big matzo ball hanging out. It's really like one of those things you're just like, he got caught up with school, he got caught up with his kid, like he couldn't get to the lineup in time, but like that's a big difference here. And maybe it wouldn't have made a difference, but that's something that I look at and say, like, you know what? Who knows what the weekend would have looked like if he actually got Hunter Green in that day.
Mhm. I know that Frank and I were discussing it, and I know that Frank had thought, you got to get that guy into that lineup because he's facing the Giants at home. I was on the other side of the fence. I was like, I don't mind the idea of leaving that guy on the bench at home at Great American Ballpark against a team like the Giants. But when you lose by an inning and two strikeouts, that's definitely something you wanted to get in there. Like I would
Right. And like I said, Frank could have won those stats anyway,
anyway. Right.
you know? Like everything could have been the same. It's just it would have forced the issue and it would have made
Yes.
Frank think and work and delegate his ads differently.
And throw one more guy in order to get there.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah. These two, I feel like this is a war we're going to see forever. And this year, it looks like Frank's going to get the upper hand here. The question is, and the question I've been asking for months now, is whether or not he can close this and actually finish in the playoffs. Surprisingly enough, I'm finally going to say that I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he already has a nice little lead here, I mean, a lot would have to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a pretty generous matchup. Like out of all these guys that has their matchups, right? I would say I am the least fortunate out of the group, but I mean, wouldn't you? Besides Josh
James
playing
McCloskey.
off,
I think James McCloskey is the least fortunate. He gets Mike Haber.
right, right. I wasn't even counting him in that regard, but you're absolutely right. I was actually thinking about Mike and like how he has McCloskey, so
Mm-hmm.
that's like I would rather be as bad as my record is against James. I'd rather be playing him than Jason in the final week.
Sure,
So,
sure.
but I see what you're saying. Yeah, James is technically absolutely still in this.
Oh yeah,
But
only three out,
yeah, which I mean, we can
and he
get
should
into
be
that.
eight better.
Oh my God, he should be in the playoffs with a no-brainer. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like absolutely in. So really unfortunate there. But anyway,
yeah.
um, yeah, I do think Frank finds a way in here because I think that he finds a way to figure out what he needs to get in order to find himself in. And like he's one of those guys now that's just staring at the standings, looking at stat tracker every single moment that he can,
Mhm.
seeing them flip and how many stats he's going to need to close this thing. I do think he's going to make it in. And it's going to be special for him because, even though we talk about how Bobby joined us in 2018, he got into the playoffs his second year in 2019, right? He faced you in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2020, Frank's second year as well, he gets in, goes all the way to the final, wins two playoff matchups. And since then, he hasn't gotten in. Same with Bobby, like they're both kind of fighting for that second playoff appearance. And for Frank, I mean, this is his fifth year in. This would be the first time that he makes the playoffs in a full year,
Yes.
21 or 22 weeks. So that would be special. The fact that he like grinded through, got through this marathon, one that he hasn't been able to finish. And this time he's finished the marathon. It really looks like this is going to be it. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to, it seems like he's in. Obviously, anything can happen, but
Mm-hmm.
just to be in this spot right now, like in week 22, to be fighting for that spot, that's special. It's really, really amazing. So good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? You're to this point. I don't think Frank's going to end up heartbroken. I think it's going to be somebody else. I think it's going to be one of these other managers that has sort of slipped here in the last couple of weeks. I think James McCloskey's out. And the question I have left is not whether Frank's going to be in or out. I think Frank's in. I guess we spin this forward to you, Benji. I know what my first in and last My last in and first out are. I know who I think is going to be the six, and I know who I think is going to have their heart broken and be the seven. I ask you the same question: who do you have just in, and who do you have just out?
I don't know the order in the standings, but I think that the six that are currently in are the ones that hold it. I unfortunately think that Bobby having Adam in that final week, and I just kind of feel like Adam is he's gripping onto this like, oh, the season's going to be over soon and he's going to miss it. Like he really, really enjoyed it that he's going to be fighting. Where Costas is kind of like thrown his hands up and been like, I'm, he knows it's over. He's still going to play. I just don't know if it's going to be with that same like vigor that he's been playing before this point. Um, but I could be wrong. And honestly, man, I would probably venture to say that if Bobby gets in, that means I'm in trouble. I would say that like right now I'm seeing myself as the five or the six, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you, man. There's so much to happen in the next five
So
days.
much crazy shit is going to happen over the next 5 days. Now, let's get to managers of the week, Benjamin. I know you're excited to do this one. So let's start with your number three. Who was your number three manager of the week this week?
It's an unusual one, but it's a name that I keep throwing around here. We didn't discuss this matchup, but I am going to go with Adam Lowenstein here. A win over a very, very tough manager in Jason Ashby, um, holding him down like two losses in a row now after he beat Henry. He walks into you, and then this, it's like he batted two, sure, he batted 248, but like it's still something that you kind of have to manage around. Adam bats 264 with a 322 on base. The 302 ERA wasn't even good enough to beat Jason's 2.67, but he did have a 102 whip. He lost by one home run. This is such an awesome, tight matchup that fell in Adam's favor, and I really liked watching him play.
So Adam Lowenstein, number three, taking down that 11-10 win over Jason. I'm going to go in another direction for my number three. I'm going to give it to Brian Lebo, who makes things very interesting with a 12-8 win over Josh Haber this week. I felt like this dude was due for a win at some point. His team finally hit something respectable, a 319 with a 370, won homers by one, clobbered Josh in RBIs and runs scored. So hats off to Brian Lebo for making things very interesting for Josh in the final week. Who is number two for you, Benjamin?
It's my host, Joe Schubert. You are number two for me, and that is because of the opponent that you were playing his ass off. He had a really awesome uh, stats on his bench as far as his batting average. I think he did basically all that he could. The team just didn't perform for him. So I don't want to hold that against you. I think you played pretty well as well. And I love the idea of shutting down when you did, knowing what you need to do to get yourself into the playoffs. So for that, I'm putting you as the number two this week.
Well, thank you, sir. And I'm going to go ahead and give my number two to the guy we just talked about, Frank Bucco, who kind of finally got his ticket stamped to the postseason, in my opinion. This 11-9 win over Kostas and getting this win back from Kostas earlier this year really puts a stamp on this season that even if I miss, I'm now a threat every single week in this league now. And Frank gives himself a very nice 11-9 win, gets innings by one, crushes average and on base percentage this week, and was able to hang on for 11-9. And it puts him in a right position to survive Mike Sherman this week and make himself a playoff team. So if I'm number two, then who's number one for you, Benjamin?
Actually going with Brian Lebo here, taking down a very, very hot team. Love the fact that he's been like continuously making like good amount of ads each week and competing regardless. He loves to play this game. Like his season has been done probably since even before the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely because he took two really rough losses in a row to Henry, I think, to close out the first half or to begin the second half. Not exactly sure, but I know it was like a crushing blow and it was like one after the other. But here he changes his team name. Love the new team name. Batten down the hatches. Like that was amazing. And
Mhm.
with that, he really stormed in here and he found his way into a good win. A +4. It's good to just get your confidence up and like going into that final matchup against Matt Losey. Matt Losey's been so bad, so like to get a win on him, maybe that really doesn't really boost the ego, but you know, beating a good manager like Josh Haber on the second to last week, you got something to go from, like a little bit of momentum going into 2024.
Hell yeah. And Lebo is happy to see this season go away in the sense that it's been a long season for the Cardinals. It's been a
Yeah.
long season in fantasy, but he is not by any means discouraged or not coming back. Like this guy is locked in for life here. My number one this week, I have to give it to Mike Haber because he punched his playoff ticket, and I think anytime you can beat Ben Nisman by 9, it's to be commended. The offense certainly came with it. They brought all of the counting stats and then some. And you know what? He's always whenever you face Ben, you're up against a really tough opponent. So getting a +9 at any point, regardless of what the team looks like, is a great win for Mike. Puts that ticket and has his seat at the table. The question is which seat it is because we've had a Mike Haber table before where he sits at the head and everybody else join. I don't think that's what's going to happen here. And if I had to put money on it, I don't think he's the number one seed next week.
It's hard to say. I obviously realize that you have the more favorable matchup playing Christian than he does James McCloskey. I mean, these teams are it's the yin and the yang. I mean, James's team is much better, and despite missing the minimum twice this season, he still manages it better than Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if I had to guess, I think it's funny how you haven't had first place this entire year that after 22 weeks that's when you get first
Here I
place.
am.
It's only that it's too appropriate for that to happen. So yeah, if I had to guess, I think it's you in the one and Mike in the two. But I mean, if it's you in the two and him in the one, it's just it makes sense that the two of you are in the final four because like I mean, maybe you haven't with all due respect, haven't been the best manager all season, but for the second half, it's a no-brainer who's been the best manager. So, like, to me, I think that does afford you. And I can look at this and say the two guys that are 1 and 2 this year are the two guys that deserve to be 1 and 2 this year.
Well, thank you. I certainly hope to finish this out. I never thought back in week 13 when I was in 13th place that this was going to happen. In fact, I had myself
Oh,
written off and dead on this team.
yeah.
And I deserved better than that.
Mhm.
I
No, I
deserved better than
agree.
that.
And honestly, man, I didn't really have you as a one. Like I kind of had you in that 3, 4, 5, 6 like that grouping. Not sure where it was gonna, but like I didn't have a doubt. Like I knew you'd find your way, and all you needed to do was get through me to get you on the right track. And that's what happened. You took me out 11-7, and you haven't looked back
It's been
since.
straight ahead ever since.
Yeah, yeah.
Benji, I think that'll do it for this week, man. We have got one hell of a story unfolding this week, and we're going to see exactly who the Blessed Six are at in just 5 short days, man.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be fun after we get through this week that we can start looking at the head-to-head stats and we can start seeing, who was the best win losses in home runs and RBIs, who was the best in totals. Like now we get a really good sample size here. If not right now, but it's going to be really interesting to look at all of that and see what the difference was, what it could have been when we look back at the guys that did make it in or didn't make it in, like what was that ad? Like what was that one decision playing this guy in the lineup instead of that? That's that one stat. Because it's looking now more than ever that we're gonna have a guy that misses out by like most 2 to 3 stats by the end. And it's just it's gonna be brutal, but at the end it's gonna be what needs to happen and how it's gonna be. It's going to be a fun finish. That's what I know. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope everyone's had a blast going through it because this has been an adventure. Like we've all gone through this adventure together, and we just can't wait for more. I can't wait for 2024, but let's enjoy this while it lasts because
Hell yeah.
we only have 4 weeks left.
Guys, if you're concerned about heartbreak happening to you, I remind you all 2022's champion Jimmy Dunlap missed the playoffs in 2021 by a tiebreaker. It was the exact same record.
Wins,
There was
losses,
no
ties.
there's no wins, losses, ties identical. And it was for the 6 spot. He turns around and wins the championship the next year. So don't ever think that this is the only chance you're ever going to have to make the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah.
Every year is
But
a new way.
well said. I will say that, man, but the other side of that coin is that when you do make the playoffs, you got to seize the day because you never know when you're going to be back. Because it's that hard when you're talking about 16 teams. Like, that's what makes this league very exclusive. The fact that we're 6 out of 16 is a really, really intense percentage. Like, that is what exclusivity is. And I think like we've nailed it in that regard, and keeping it competitive for 22 weeks, that's what makes it magical. So it's been special, and more coming.
Absolutely. And we can't wait to tell the rest of this story. Thank you guys all so much for listening. Thank you for watching. And thank you for being a part of this league. We have nothing without you. And until next time, guys, it's been real. It's been fun. It is always real fun in the bigs. We're going to the playoffs next week. Let's do it.